All right, it's Billy Failing.
Howdy.
I'm Nechville. Howdy. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Just, here at home,
Yeah, and
just like everybody else.
are you in Nashville?
Well, I'm actually, I live up here in Boulder, Colorado. Just kind of out in the woods here. And,
I love the mountains, and
yeah,
I've
it's,
always been out there. You ever,
yeah.
have you ever gone to Rocky Grass out there?
I've always wanted to go to Rocky Grass, and it's, it's right kind of 25 minutes up the road from here.
Yeah.
We can almost see where, Lyons is from, where we live.
It's a beautiful place, and I had planned to go there this summer before this big crisis thing hit us.
Right.
I don't know if they're even going to have Rocky Grass. I sure hope they do, because I'm going to sponsor their at Telluride and Rocky Grass a whole bunch of times, and so I plan to be back there, hopefully this year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is this epidemic thing treating you and the band? Did you have to cancel everything?
Yeah, I think we're canceled, at least in terms of our originally scheduled, like, in-person stuff. We've got some streams available and all that. But, in terms of stuff we were booked for, the spring has been pretty much canceled, obviously. And we're kind of, in a holding pattern on the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as of now, like, end of June's kind of our next date that we're kind of waiting and seeing about.
Yeah. This, I don't know how bummed out we should be with this thing. And what are you doing to keep busy in the meantime while you're not out touring and stuff?
Well, believe it or not, there's actually been, like, I've had more time to practice banjo than, like, ever before, it seems like.
It'll be kind of cool to hear you guys after you've perfected your chops, as if they're
totally
perfect already. When I hear you guys, I just get excited. I think that the dynamics that you guys provide, between all the instruments, really, but it's a group effort for sure.
Totally.
But I have a ton of questions technically. As a player myself, I want to kind of know how you support the guitar player. Things that you do with the banjo.
Totally.
But before I go into that, can I ask just a little bit about what you're playing right now in your banjo?
Yeah, so this is my Nechville banjo. So it's kind of by request. It was it's like the body of the I think it was the Phantom model, and then the neck of I think it was the vintage model, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And so it's kind of in a way is sort of like a good kind of metaphor for, like, my sort of what I gravitate towards as a player, and wanting something that's modern sounding but also a bit vintage. Yeah. In a way.
I think it seems to me like the source material of bluegrass, like what you and Billy put forth musically. It sounds like you guys are really well versed in the old music as well as the new stuff that you're creating. Is that true?
Totally. Yeah. I think we, we're all have, to varying degrees, kind of come from a background of, like, learning traditional bluegrass and, but also being really kind of passionate about other kinds of music and bringing that into what we do.
It's you can hear this elementary roots, you know, in the sound, but then it just explodes, and it becomes it just, you know, it just fills you up with music and
yeah,
you know, and I've been fortunate enough to hear you, you know, in the front of the crowd, you know, and seeing you up close, and that's the best place to be in any concert, I think. But
yeah.
But like when so what kind of wood is that banjo made out of?
So I believe it's maple, which you can see kind of
the kind of stripy, curly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, you know, is I can't say I'm like super knowledgeable about the nuances of each different type of wood, but I will say that like all the maple banjos that I've played, you know, I think that kind of is my sound, you know, and this, you know, particular banjo has a great kind of like range of, you know, you can kind of get that high end crack, but also like some of the, you know, the more mellower tones as well. So it's kind of nice to have that broad range that you get with maple.
Yeah, and can you point out, are there any ways in words to describe how the banjo performs? I mean, is there anything you can say about its, like you just said, it's kind of versatile, it has a pretty wide range of tone available?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if I'm playing like something kind of scrugsy, you know, it performs really well with like that kind of, you know, the driving stuff, but also like if you're playing up the neck, you know, that kind of single string stuff, the more modern kind of style playing, like I think it kind of, you know, has a bit of kind of the best of both worlds, which is, you know, I kind of look for both sides of that. So
yeah, you know, I think the maple is a pretty dense wood, and it's pretty stiff, and I think that lends a lot to the immediacy of the sound and the kind of responsiveness that you
definitely
have to rely on, and maybe headroom too. Like when you play it hard, you know, you get a hard driving kind of sound or whatever, but then in the hands of a good player, you can kind of finesse the tone and into a lot of different directions.
Totally.
Yeah. And do you tinker much with setup when you're? Well,
here and there, I'm I would say mostly I'm kind of like you know, let it do its thing kind of setup guy. But I mean, that said, it's like if I do need to like tighten the head, like, I mean, I know that you've kind of patented this sort of design with the hill mount.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I do have to like kind of mess with the head or anything like that, it makes it a bit simpler than, you know, turning one side and then turning the other, and you know.
So you have messed with the head, kind of occasionally tightening it up and that kind of thing.
I have, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, with the band, we travel to like all sorts of different climates and humidities. Like, you know, oftentimes I'm flying from out of Denver to, you know, Nashville, and so that's quite a range of different climates.
I think the biggest part of traveling is humidity changes, don't you think? The way that sometimes
totally
the neck, if it gets filled with moisture, suddenly it might swell and kind of cause buzzing or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Then you have a truss rod wrench to adjust the truss rod?
Totally.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's really important, I think, for a traveling player. You know, they need to carry one of those little nut drivers in there.
Right.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think what you're saying before about the combination, normally that neck, it's a vintage neck, and it normally has a shiny pot, and which would be a little bit more traditional looking. So
yeah,
this kind of a dark framed pot
totally
does sort of have a statement there. It's sort of like it's kind of this little bit renegade sort of style, and
yeah, I love it.
I do too. It's it sort of opens the door for you to get away with anything, you know.
Right.
Maybe. Well, so you know, I'm gonna look about my notes here because this I want to keep this thing flowing. But you know, as you guys are planning stuff, are you doing any? Are you still getting together, you know, in your small groups and doing practicing and stuff during this time?
We haven't been. I mean, I'm out here in Colorado. We're pretty. It's fairly strict about kind of the stay-at-home order and all that. But yeah, I mean, we haven't really been getting together, but hoping as kind of things improve that we'll be able to kind of get together and do some stuff.
Sharing ideas and working on stuff separately, kind of things.
Well, I mean, mostly we're just kind of all. It's we're on hold for a couple months now, so it's mostly just individually, kind of just keeping up on our stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that when everybody gets back together, they'll have this new energy that'll be awesome. So, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing when you perform and you're on stage? Do you have amplification, and how? And can you describe some of what you do with how to pick up the sound of your banjo?
Totally, yeah. Well, so yeah, I do play with the pickup. We actually, each of us in the band, except for the bass, will blend a kind of a clip-on mic with a pickup.
Yeah.
And so I think our sound guys got it fairly dialed in with phasing and all the kind of challenges that come with that.
So signals coming from the instrument, a mic signal plus a pickup signal.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, I think it's our shows are fairly loud, so I think a good bit of it is the pickup sound, but it's nice to kind of have that mic sound in our in-ears as well, just to kind of balance things out. But
you can sort of tailor how much mic is in the mix, I suppose, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Is it a Fishman, or what kind of banjo pickup is in there?
Yeah, so I've kind of tinkered around a bit with a couple different setups. Currently using a Fishman. Just kind of one nice thing about it is just the sort of minimal contact, which has the kind of keeps the acoustic response. So yeah, I've been using that one, and then an Audio-Technica clip-on mic as well.
Where does that clip-on mic go?
Well, so I'll usually, if you can see that, I'll kind of clip it on right on one of the one of the these guys here.
It's outside the banjo and just kind of hangs right on.
Totally, yeah. So it kind of arches up around and kind of concentrated right around there.
Yeah, okay. I've seen a lot of people put mics there. Yeah, for sure. We have a pickup system, and we recently have experimented with using a Fishman. I can show it to you. I mean, not a Fishman, but Fishman. So this is a prototype thing here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera.
Okay.
You see there's a Fishman magnetic there. And normally we have an EMG mic pickup thing mounted over here under the string.
Right.
Like the neck would be over here, and this would be like under the bridge, kind of.
Yeah.
And so what this does is it gives it allows this pickup to sit closer to the source of the pickup, which is that little metal plate that sits under the under the foot of the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then the EMG pickup that is like this one, I think we'll show you. So this one, you see, it's got an EMG pickup that would be under.
I see there.
If the neck is over here, then there's the head right above this, and then the strings are way up here. So there's a big distance between the strings and the pickup.
Okay.
And the other one, the pickup is really close to the magnetic little plate there on the head.
Yeah.
So I guess this is probably going a little too much into detail, but
oh no, not at all.
What I'm saying is that we have these pickups that maybe we can talk more about that later as to
absolutely
other ways of getting the same result, because there's a piezo pickup at the same time that can sometimes be a good mix to put into the signal along with.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you had 3 signals, a magnetic, piezo, and a microphone. You'd get blending them. You'd get a really natural, full, cool sound. I think.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to check that out.
Do you use in-ear monitors and stuff when you're playing?
We do, yeah. Kind of early on, we were using like stage monitors, but I mean, with kind of the level of like volume, decibel punch that we're going for is it's having in-ears that kind of like cancel out some of that noise is like, in addition to making it so we can hear instruments a little clearer, it's like kind of a good way to like preserve our hearing in the process.
Now, do you, I know Billy, the guitar player, has some cool effects that he uses. Do you do effects on the banjo? I
do, actually, yeah. So let's see. One of my kind of latest additions to my pedal board was a phaser, which Pete Wernick is kind of the pioneer of banjo phaser. So it's kind of fun getting that tone. It's sort of the 70s sound. So I've been using that. Let's see. I've got there's this pedal from Game Changer Audio that's called I forget what the specific name of it was, but it's like it's kind of like a piano sustain pedal. So you like play a chord and then you can press this pedal and it'll like do I guess it's like live sampling of like just the sound of your chord. And so it's kind of a cool way to like sustain. I've had this dream forever, because I love the sound of a banjo, and I just always wondered, can a banjo tone be sustained? I just wonder, like, that's sort of a cool concept to me. I'd love to hear that isolated, just to hear what it sounds like. I suppose it can kind of make it sound like an electric guitar somewhat, but you have the hit of a banjo, which is kind of a sudden. I don't know. There's a certain, I guess, what do you call it? The overtones of the banjo note are the things that make it a banjo sound rather than a guitar sound. Right. Guitar would be more fundamental, and the banjo would have these strong harmonics, that would pop out. Totally. That excites me, and I hope to hear more about that kind of system. Totally. Yeah, that's a whole world of fun once you start adding stuff to the pedal board. Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
So anyway, how long have you been together as a band? The current band that you're in.
Well, let's see. So I joined. I started playing with Billy in like 2016, kind of around this time of 2016, and yeah, we've played with a bunch of different great players, but you know, our current lineup, I think, has been together since like the start of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like when Jared started playing in Royal. Had been around for a couple months before that.
Cool.
So, you know, about coming up on like 2.5 years.
Yeah, when I saw you guys, I think it was at Winfield or something like that, and I think Jared was just brand new in the group then.
Totally.
Yeah. So when you're playing, can you describe a little bit and talk about playing with a guitar player, and how do you back up a guitar player that's taken a break?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, part of what I do is just kind of getting like somewhat of like what the guitar is kind of like what the guitar rhythm would be doing. So, you know, I might do like some kind of droning of like the G with like a roll pattern. You know, something like that. Or, you know, kind of try and get that, like, you know, if the guitar is doing kind of like a boom chick pattern, I'll try and kind of catch the, you know, the backbeat of that, like. And kind of like, you know, do my own version of like what the guitar rhythm would do. I know, like, you know, I've been sort of interested in, like, you know, I know my buddy Kyle Tuttle's got like a cool kind of strum pattern, which I think I've seen you do it as well.
Yeah.
And Danny Barnes. And so I'm sort of interested in that approach to it too. I haven't quite mastered the technique of that quite yet, but
I've had people, I just, like, I don't know how I started doing that, but I just naturally over the years began strumming, sort of like, you know, I've got the picks on my normal fingers, and then I've got these two fingers that kind of are free to do almost like a claw hammery sort of thing.
Totally.
It seems intuitive that you might want to strum a little bit because there's no guitar really providing that strumming rhythm. But on the other hand, I think that kind of like what you're doing with the droning, like, you know, a roll that is sort of monotonous is a texture behind a lot of stuff. And
totally.
Yeah, but it's, you know, timing is so important. You got to really, I think if you're right in the pocket timing wise, it can really enhance. And of course you got to listen to the guitar player, I suppose, you know, so you're not stepping on them. But
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's there's nothing more fun. I'm so glad for you in that environment, because, you know, playing with a great guitar player is the funnest thing, isn't it? I mean,
totally. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to play alongside Billy just because he's so, you know, his leads are so driving that it's like, you know, you don't lose anything when I mean, quite the opposite.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think I can imagine that you really support each other and kind of drive each other on, and, you know, in the energy of the music.
Totally.
Which is great. Yeah. So let me just ask a little bit more about that banjo, because I'm seeing it play, and I see that you got a radius fingerboard on there. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I've actually been really, really stoked about the radius on this neck. It's like, you know, I had a flat necked, you know, Gibson banjo before I started playing this one, so it's kind of nice to like have that, you know, for the style of playing that I do, where it's a lot of, you know, making chord shapes and, you know, single strings, you know, that style of playing. It's like just the action is great for that kind of thing, just like the feel of the neck.
Now, I know all about these banjos because I make them. But
right.
Have you ever had the neck? Have you ever had to adjust the angle of the neck to change the string height?
I haven't really messed too much with that, but I mean, it's pretty much just been at a good.
It's been pretty stable.
Yeah, pretty stable, and just I think the action has been workable at whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can imagine that if the head does loosen up a little and then you end up tightening it, over time your head might get higher and tightening it. And then the strings could potentially get higher away from the fingerboard.
Yeah.
If that happens, then there's an easy adjustment. So you can take your neck and just kind of drop it down. And
right.
then the action will come down. It may take 1 or 2 tries if you don't hit it the first time, because it's
totally
infinite, where the different number of places you can put the neck to control the action. But
right on.
Yeah, can you listen to the head tension and hear a note in the head? Like, you ever listen to it, try to get a G sharp or?
Yeah. I'm actually, I can't hear it like all that well. I think I might be missing some frequencies or something from my hearing, but
you just sort of scratch across the surface of the head.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
Well, it might actually, through this speaker that I'm listening to is not a great sound coming out of the speaker, but you might be able to tell what note that head is, and that it's kind of a high pitched sound that when you scratch on the head that you hear, and a lot of times it comes in around a G or a G sharp or an A, and sometimes it's even like maybe F sharp. And I just was curious if you were cognizant of that note and you knew where you had it. And I would guess that you're probably up in the G sharp range.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Go up to your 5th string, like your 5th fret on your 1st string,
Oh yeah.
You're higher than that. So you're up.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like a G sharp about.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's funny because I can actually hear it through the system here. I think this is really getting those higher.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one thing I have noticed about this banjo is there's it seems like there's kind of a purity of the fundamental frequency.
Yeah.
It's like with some banjos, the overtones can kind of muddle a little bit of the fundamental frequency, and I am kind of curious, what maybe about this banjo, what leads to that kind of cleanliness of.
That's a question that I could answer. Just based on that was sort of the idea of designing the banjo in the first place. I kind of wanted to isolate the tone ring inside the cage of the pot without any metal connections to the tone ring, and just what would happen if that tone ring was just mounted freely inside of the cage of the banjo, and that is like the helical mounting frame, and the neck is attached to that frame, so there's no coordinator rods inside. When you take a regular banjo like a Gibson or a Deering or a Stelling or anybody else, they all have the neck bolted firmly onto the rim and tone ring,
Yeah.
With metal rods going through the middle of that banjo, and then attached to that rim and tone ring assembly, you have 70 or 80 pieces of hardware, all the hooks and nuts and tailpiece connection and all these other pieces of metal. And there's sort of a natural resonance to vibrating metal that is going to give a little bit more of a zingy sound. And
right.
And I think that is characteristic of a banjo, and I think that it's something that many traditional banjo players might miss, if
right.
of that. But I'm offering an alternative, and I think it's
totally
cleaner sound. I think that you have like a little bit more of a purity to the note that you're trying to go for, and not quite as much interference from
mm-hmm.
a preponderance of overtones,
Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it just is the total difference. You can hear the difference. I've had times where I've walked down a hallway and I could hear the band playing in the back room, and I've, from 100 yards away, I've said, that sounds like a Nechville banjo playing in the bar.
Yeah, totally.
And then I walk into the bar, and it's sure enough, I can tell the difference. Not everybody can tell because it has a pure banjo sound, but it's the pureness of the sound that I can distinguish from other banjos.
Right.
And I can't really. I prefer it, but I can't say it's better. I mean, it's for my when I play, I kind of like to play whatever I can get away with, and sometimes it's not categorizable music. It's made up stuff. It's just I'm playing my feelings, and it comes out more sounding like original, composition. It doesn't really sound like bluegrass.
Yeah.
So I kind of prefer a sound that is just a little more pure like that, and I think I can play more variety of types of music with it.
Totally.
Yeah, and then your bridge on there is pretty high. Does that?
Yeah.
That like looks like it might be about 3/4.
I think so. I'm not sure what the specs on it are exactly, but yeah. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it's the same bridge as like, what I got from you. But yeah, I mean, I think the setup of it and, the sound is like, I've just been loving it. So
good.
Kind of just keeping the variables pretty consistent.
Well, you can always call me if you have any problems, or if you want to clean up the head or anything like that. I can send you a new head or whatever you need. So
totally.
Yeah, and that's quick and pretty quick to do if you ever need to change a head. A few twists of the wrist, Yeah. Kind of thing. Taken care of.
Awesome.
Can I ask, like you've been playing a long time, did you have any particular heroes that you liked, growing up, that you listened to?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, obviously Earl Scruggs is, who he is, and has had probably influenced just about every banjo player in our time.
Everybody,
But yeah, I mean, I think, Bela Fleck as well has been like a huge inspiration since just about the beginning. I really love like checking out kind of all the players around like today, some of the young players like, Corey Walker is a great player, like Kyle Tuttle, just kind of, always drawing inspiration from like, the people around me and all that. So,
yeah. And do you, do you practice a lot? I mean, and how do you learn new stuff? Do you steal stuff from your buddies like Kyle and these kind of guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always fun, like, if we're at a festival together or something, like, kind of watching the other players and what they're doing and what their approach is on, a tune that we both know or something like that. It's just kind of fun to, like, see how other people are doing stuff and kind of go home and think about how I could, try it that way or something like that.
Just for those people that may be listening and are trying to learn something new, can you make people, give them a realistic bit of advice? For me, it would be, don't be embarrassed about how many times you have to repeat and practice. Like, can you say anything about woodshedding and, what it takes to learn something new?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, like, an approach that I kind of like to take, it's like, I'm always hitting wrong notes, and, thinking about, like, just how to, like, incorporate those wrong notes, how to, like, make them right notes. 'Cause, I think it was like Miles Davis that said, like, there are no wrong notes. So it's kind of a cool, like, exploration, thinking how, like, if I hit, like, two random notes, like, how they can connect into, like, a musical idea or something like that.
Can that be done sort of on the fly? So, like, you're repairing mistakes after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of selling the mistake is kind of a crazy idea. It's like you maybe hit the note that you weren't meaning to hit, but it's like, it's not like
it's not the end of the world.
Idea is, botched or anything. You just kind of go from there.
Yeah, and to not get flustered and to consider that part of the past, and it's
totally
maybe to build on it even is kind of cool. Yeah, I think that when it sounds like a mistake is when somebody would kind of hesitate or make a facial expression or get hit by it. And yeah, I've never seen you actually do that on stage, but
yeah. But, well, there might be an inaudible groan here and there for me. So
I think that we're playing so many notes. You're bound to hit a few ones that you weren't planning on, but
totally.
Sometimes they turn into creative mistakes, don't they? I mean,
absolutely. I think I remember reading an interview about, like, the Red Hot Chili Peppers guitarist or something like that, and, like, talking about, like, the solo that they used on some song on one of their albums. Like, he had started playing in the wrong key, and it's like, I just love that idea where it's like you can take something that you're, like, completely screwing up, and then that's, like, the take that you use. So it's a cool idea.
I was in France once, and there was this guy named Fred Simone, and he's a monster player, and he's so good that he can repair mistakes after they have happened, just like we're talking about. And somebody, a kid made a mistake on Foggy Mountain Breakdown.
Yeah.
And so the next time around, Fred incorporated that mistake. And from that point on, the song was a new song, but everybody played that mistake, and it was hilarious, and it was also good. It was it didn't sound bad at all. It was just like a
totally
modified version of the song.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's more notable that way,
Yeah, and that's what I miss so much. I'm kind of sad about our being stuck at home and not being able to do this.
Yeah.
Because these experiences in groups, there's nothing more fun than jamming We have
Absolutely.
jammed a lot, but we've had a couple chances to sit around and pick for a couple minutes. And that's what I want to do for the rest of my life is,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back at some point,
Yeah.
We'll be back soon.
Yeah, that's good. Well, there are a lot of banjo interviews, they talk about little details, picks and stuff like that. But is there anything unusual about what you do or how you hold your picks or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I kind of just try to do whatever is kind of the loosest, most comfortable positioning of, my left hand or my right hand, just because, I've dealt with kind of tendonitis issues in the past. And so I try to think like, ease of how I hold my hands and all that.
Yeah, I suppose you try to reduce stress in any part of your body.
Totally.
Does the armrest on that banjo help at all with kind of relaxing into it?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a very comfortable, I'll hold that up a little closer. It's sort of I'm not actually sure what kind of wood it would be, but it's just a very comfortable kind of way to rest my, this part of my arm on, which kind of makes the rest of everything feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Let's get kind of like, maybe we could kind of wrap up a little bit and just say, if there's anybody out there that wants to learn more about you guys, how can they contact, or what should they do? Should they go to your website or Facebook page or?
Yeah, I would say, for the Billy Strings thing, like, once this all kind of dies down a bit and we're back up and running again, I think, there's probably a good chance we'll be at least somewhat close to your hometown, wherever you are. And
yeah, you had a tour scheduled, didn't you, that had to be canceled?
Yeah. I mean, we were going all over the place this month before we got canceled. And so I would say just, check out billystrings.com, give us a follow on social media and all that. And, we'll probably be playing nearby at some point.
We can't wait. We're really looking forward to some more live music. And in the meantime,
absolutely,
we hope that you can, keep yourselves all practiced up and
totally
coming up with a lot of new creative ideas for the future.
Yeah,
we love you guys, and I want to just thank you for bringing so much joy into the world.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate what you do, and obviously I'm having a great time playing this banjo every day, so keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully we'll be able to connect soon in person, and once this is all over with.
Yeah, I had plans of being in your neighborhood, but we'll see. Let's hope that they pan out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
Well, then we'll sign off for now, and I'll quit the recording, and we'll wish you a wonderful evening. Okay.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Tom.
Good. Okay.